Hope you feel comfortable. So, welcome to Building a Classroom Community. I want you to look at this first little thing I put up here, right? Is there anything missing from this picture?
People. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're mostly PYP teachers, right? So we might not think about that immediately, but some people might, right? Any guesses what this is? You think I'm just in the other room hanging out?
Quarantine?
You're not far off. So this would be year 2020. You guys remember that year? Pretty solid year, great year, right? Totally great. Pandemic and such. I was stuck in America for 10 months. My son had just recently been born, and I was with my family there, and I still had to teach. I taught in the French bilingual program at the time. And so I was a floating head in my classroom with a volunteer TA helping me. Before this lesson, well, I look very excited, right? Pretty excited face. I had like a total meltdown. I thought I wasn't going to be a teacher anymore. I was scared to death. I didn't think I could do this. I thought I was done. Obviously I'm not, right? Here, talking to you. But I did think I was done. That this would be too hard. To deliver content, to connect with students, to deliver genuine learning while being a face on the wall. And I will say the one great thing about 2020, not that there were many great things, is it forced educators to get creative with the way that they interacted with their learners. And for me, it made me a better teacher. Some of you have probably seen this. Some of you maybe not. But after I taught, had this meltdown, and then worked my way through it, right, teaching these students, I decided to surprise my 4th and 5th grade students when I got back after quarantine. And this was their reaction.
Okay, okay.
It's nice to see you.
After 10 months of not being able to be in the classroom, that was the best feeling in the world. Because I was able to maintain a connection with those kids. I was able to teach. I had to get creative. But I wasn't just a head on the wall to them. And that's the moment that got rid of whatever, in academia, I think we all have some sort of imposter syndrome at some point. That erased any of it that I ever had. And I knew that I was going to be a teacher for the rest of my life. Now, on the board, you see student identified 8 variables. These aren't things that I pulled out of a hat. No. This was a study done by Jeffrey Cornelius White, published in 2007. It was 1,000 articles synthesized to 199 studies from 1948 to 2004, 1,450 findings, and 325,000 kids, students, analyzed. Now, if that isn't a sample size, I don't know what is. Feels pretty good to me. Now, you also notice that I've highlighted genuineness and learner-centered beliefs, because that's what I'm going to focus on today. Because these two things complement one another, and they create a classroom environment that is the best. And it's everything we want as PYP educators. Okay, well, speaking of genuine, I'd like to share a short clip of me being a little genuine with my kids, my students. My kids included, though. You can see right there.
Patrick, are you ready for time?
I want you to notice her reaction. She sees it too.
Let me try again. Hello, students. Welcome to English Online. Say welcome. Welcome. I'm Mr. Magnus, and this is my daughter, Ada, and we're here to tell you what the weather is like outside.
This last picture is a picture of me wearing an earring. I don't have my ears clipped, or pierced rather. I don't. But the three girls had this earring and they said, "Mr. Magnus, will you wear this earring?" And I said, "Sure, give me the earring." And I put it on. They thought it was funny. And I wore it. I think it worked for like the whole day. With the idea being like that I was being myself. Somewhat funny, but also believing that gender norms shouldn't really be a thing, and that gender is on a spectrum, and that third graders are certainly not too young to start learning about that. Now, allowing yourself to be genuine allows your students to be genuine. Whether that's wearing cowboy hats and trying to find context clues, showing off their mustaches, so getting ready to make a video about sequencing of words, celebrating a victory with a dab. And I think this kid's reaction is my absolute favorite of all time. Clearly super excited. Even down here with this young man, a fist bump of what I've accomplished. And down here, these two readers, we're cool wearing matching shark hats. That's who we are. Don't judge us. It also allows for celebrations like this. This was actually a collaboration with several different teachers. The ELL director here at the time, and my wife, who was teaching pre-K at the time, made this wonderful wizard staff as we did they had to write an argument, persuasive essay, basically, and present it to someone in order to earn this wonderful staff. Look how beautiful that is. Here's us celebrating. We wore the exact same shirt. And here we're celebrating the French holiday, King's Day, where we eat king's cake. And if you happen to get a little plastic thing in your cake, you get a crown. Now, one thing I want to be clear about on being genuine with your students. It doesn't mean that you're their friend. That's a distinction as educators that we have to make sure that we know. We can be genuine. We can be human, right? We can open ourselves up to these kids, help them. But at the end of the day, we're facilitators of their learning, we're coaches, we're many things, but we're not necessarily their friend. Genuineness leads to greater student-led learning and ownership. That's my big hypothesis. Maybe it's not that big, probably pretty popular. But I've got a pretty good example I'd like to share with you if you don't mind. So as teachers, what's the first thing we do after we do introductions, icebreakers, what comes next? Hmm? That's kind of like, we get to know the students, right? But then like, what are we gonna get them to do next, right? We're not gonna tell them the rules. What are we gonna do? They're gonna create classroom agreements. Most students, anyways. Most classes, maybe not your classes. This year I wanted to take a different spin on it. I wanted to make it a little more genuine, a little more real. So the first thing I did was teach the kids, well, after the normal stuff, I taught the kids about identity. And we made these identity maps. You can look back there and see, or you can see them here. And they chose to, it's all about me, right? So they're telling me their culture, they're telling me their favorite activities, they're telling me all sorts of things about them. And then we started to learn about values. And I had them connect values to each part of that map. Why do you like this? What does it fulfill in you? Big question to ask a third grader. But they did it. And this was our how we organize ourselves unit, right? So it was a democratic process. The students then took their identity maps and found which ones matched. You can see our little tallies here. And then we took the ones, they took the ones, except for me. I will say, I asked if I could be part of this process in one way. I wanted to make sure that equity was included. So they started connecting what went together. Learning, knowledge, curiosity, exploration, creativity, equality, culture, safety, health, respect. And then I scribed some pretty bad sentence starters and put them to work. I said, okay, now we know who 3C is, what 3C values. Let's create agreements that are based on our shared values. And I did. In different groups. They created agreements based on their shared values, represented with every language spoken in the classroom, pictured with how it's represented to them. Always accurate? No. But still fun and still, I think still really meaningful. Not to me, but to them. And there's more research to back this up. So those variables I was talking about, which include genuineness and student-led learning, increased engagement, motivation, test scores, and grade point average, decreases absenteeism, dropout rates, and discipline issues. That sounds pretty good to me. So what do we do as educators, right? Well, here's more research. We take a learner-centered approach. We display caring behaviors. We use a responsive classroom approach, and we are aware of the feelings of students who are feeling disconnected. I've got homework for you. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you do them all at once. I want you to display caring behavior. Tomorrow, I want you to count the number of genuine and positive interactions you have with students versus the negative ones. Then, I want you to create an activity in which your students share something about their interests, likes, dislikes, family, numbers or aspirations. However, I would say the bigger challenge is you also have to share that. And you have to be real. Now, the last thing is more to do with at-risk students, which, if anyone's met the third grade cohort, we have a couple. And it's about adopting this mindset. Has anyone, and I gotta tell you, I hate where this saying comes from, but I do like the lesson that it gives. So it's called burn the ships. Has anybody ever heard of this, burn the ships? No. Hernando Cortez, conquistador, goes down into Latin America, and he's fighting a war against the natives there. And his soldiers are not winning. They're losing, bad. And they start running back to their ships. Cortez looks at his first mate, and he says, burn the ships. First mate says, no. What does Cortez do? He stabs him. It's not a nice story. And then he says to his second mate, burn the ships. And he burns the ships. He burns the ships so that the soldiers have no way to retreat. And as educators, that's the mindset we have to take on for those high-risk kids. We can't give up. Sometimes, first semester, you're starting to feel burnt out, done. Like, this is it. This is just how it's gonna be. And I would encourage you to try to remember this story. Maybe not the bad parts, but maybe just remember the moral, right? Of not giving up, of not retreating. Because eventually, you'll get through. Eventually. It's not easy work. We didn't choose easy work. We chose incredibly hard work. So, I want to do, just show you this. This is our curriculum, yes? I believe that either what I'm talking about is here or perhaps on the outside, and that it supports all of our curriculum. And that the inquired student-led learning, the interdisciplinariness is all really supported by those 8 variables I showed you earlier. But particularly, honestly, as I keep hammering home, genuineness. Be real with your students. If you want to learn more, I suggest checking out these 2 books. No More Teaching Without Positive Relationships and Building Bridges. Fantastic books. Thanks for listening.